This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Ben Settle, super practical.
I'm not telling people to have a mistress. I'm teaching you, learn the lesson from the people who have a mistress, because there's many business lessons that apply.
Pious.
There's a part in the book of Revelation where Jesus says, I want you either hot or cold. I'm spewing lukewarm churches out. And I think it's a good way to look at your list.
Romantic to his very core.
Once in a while, I'll give my girl a present, like a Snickers bar or something.
And totes tender.
If someone asks you to walk on eggshells, smash the eggshells and let the chips fall wherever they may.
Adored by feminists everywhere.
It takes a strong woman to admit when she's wrong.
Not a judgmental bone in his entire body.
I look at all the free information people give just on Facebook and I go, what a bunch of time hose.
Has a PhD in armchair philosophy.
In the land of dumbasses, the smartass is king.
You'll never meet a more sensitive guy.
If you really care about people, you shame the hell out of them. This is Ben Settle of the bensettle.com podcast. So I'm just going to dive right into this, Jonathan. I'm not going to waste any time like I usually do.
Thank goodness.
No chit chat, no small talk. You know, it's funny because I hate small talk in real life. And I'm one of these people who hang up the phone before the conversation is even over.
I think that's polite.
And here I am small talking. So anyway, many this ago, I would say 2002. So we're going on like 16 years ago when I was first introduced to this crazy business of direct response marketing. I don't know if I sent away for it or something, but Dan Kennedy used to have this. I'm sure I've talked about it on the show before, but he used to have this like lead gen tape, and this is a cassette. Jonathan, I don't know. You know, you're a young guy. You probably don't remember cassette tapes.
What is that? No.
Right. Like, you know, that was back in the day where if you put it in the cassette player, you could eat the tape. You might lose everything. And, but this was a lead gen thing. It was a recording that he did of one of his Peter Lowe conference recordings where, you know, Peter Lowe, they would have like 30,000 people in attendance. He was always the last speaker. And you had to, if you were going to sell from the stage, you had to have your presentation game, you know, airtight, like he does. Like every second literally counted up there. And I'm guessing that was probably his best one. And that's why he used it as his lead gen, which was selling his magnetic marketing product, a magnificent magnetic marketing product. And so it is. So lots of good. I think we even did a whole show about this on here or something. I did something. Maybe I did something on YouTube or something about this, but it's a fascinating thing. I don't know where you can get it. I'm sure it's not for sale, but I know you could probably find it somewhere for free. You know, Dan Kennedy, Peter Lowe talk, whatever. It's not a big deal. Although it is more valuable than a lot of things you can pay for. And especially for people who need a good foundation, which I'm very grateful for having this, Jonathan, because it gave me a good foundation that you're just not going to get on Flakebook. You know, from the Guru Casino and all that. I'm sorry to tell you, but all your Flakebook friends are wrong. And Dan Kennedy was right. But one of the stories he told in that talk was talking about target marketing, which, you know, everybody thinks, oh yeah, I know what that is. No, you don't. And especially people who are like out there farting out all their sales pitches like on social media. They go to Facebook and they just fart out, here's what I have to offer. They have no clue what they're doing with target marketing. None. Zero. I'm not saying they can't make sales with it. Some do. I'm not saying you can't. It works until it doesn't. Okay. Okay. If you have 5,000 followers on there, maybe 10% of them are seeing what you're putting up there. And who knows, maybe more people will see it as it gets liked and all that, however the algorithm works. But the reality is that's not target marketing. And he told the story about how most people, and this is basically what people do on social media now, Jonathan. But this was back in the direct mail days. There was no, I know a lot of people, by the way, I know a lot of millennials think that like direct response marketing was invented on Facebook.
It wasn't?
It did not exist. Exactly. Or copywriting was invented by, you know, Facebook, and it never existed before then. And I know Brian Kurtz likes to mock that a little bit, because it's just silly. Like the real testing was done a long time ago. People don't know. But anyway, back to Dan Kennedy's story. He told the story about, you know, target marketing versus just go up into a plane with all your, like 100,000 of your brochures, fly over a neighborhood, take out sack of brochures, shake sack out the door of the plane, and hope for the best, which is, you know, it's not quite that bad on social media the way people do it, but it's not target marketing. And the whole point of all this is this, and I'm not even saying you have to get super targeted anymore or anything like that, but he used this analogy that I thought was really good. He goes, it makes no sense to jump up and down in the ocean. You want to jump up and down in puddles. Puddles being like you can control the puddle. You own that puddle, okay, figuratively speaking. And in the business world, you own it. That's your puddle. Now, if you go on Facebook, you don't own the audience out there. You just don't, because everyone looking at your stuff is looking at everybody else's stuff. And this goes for all the other social media too. I don't want to just pick on Facebook. It's the same with Twitter. You go on your Twitter. If people who just pitch on Twitter, they're I'm not saying you can't do it, you can't make it work, but you're kind of holding yourself back in a lot of ways because you're not isolating the prospect, which makes it sound like we're hunting them. Right?
No kidding.
So it goes back to there's a lot of, I always say this, there's a lot of things you can learn from the pickup artist seduction people, right? And that's the first, they don't go into a club and like hit on every girl. Like, they don't go up to a group of people already having a conversation and say, hey, and they might do that. Some of them do it and some of them are successful at it, but mostly they try to isolate. They try to find the girl they want and they try to isolate her to get her alone somewhere. Of course, in today's Me Too environment, and I don't know how smart that is, but they try to get them alone somewhere, even if it's at a table, just so they can talk to them, which is a very smart idea because now not every other guy in the club is hitting on them. Well, so it is in marketing. When you're just going on there on social media and farting out what your offers are and everything, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. You can do it, but to rely on it is jumping up and down in the ocean. And, there's a billion people or whatever on there, whatever it is. But much better to use these tools to get people into a position where you can isolate them. And this is why I'm not a big fan of I don't do a lot of marketing on Facebook. I just don't. I use it for entertainment purposes mostly. Maybe I'll use it to put something up about one of my novels or something, whatever. I rarely use it for selling because my email list is where that's my puddle. I jump up and down in this puddle. Nobody else has my email list. Now, there are people on my list who are on other people's lists, but since I can out-email them and write better emails than them, they're basically mine. Their asses belong to me, Jonathan. and so it is. And then this goes beyond email. Now, obviously, I am very biased with email. Okay, now I know that that's obvious and no big deal. And I'm not saying it'll always be this way, but isolating them onto an email list is like to me is the first thing, the first line of attack when you want to invade any market. You can also do this with direct mail, which is what Dan Kennedy was talking about. And he was talking about like psychographics and all that, talking about how, you can, if you wanted to find a list of, one-legged midgets with a dent in their car fender or whatever, like you can get a list. It won't be a big list, but you can get a list. And that was this whole thing. Like you can get a list of people. I'm not the direct mail expert, Jonathan. I've been trying for a long time to make cold direct mail work to get opt-ins into my list. I've talked to all the top direct mail guys. They all tell me the same. There's just no list of the people that I want, at least. And I have to go find other direct marketers and like sell them on Rent Me their list, which I'm too lazy to do. But there's a way to do this. And so one of my email player subscribers, Stephanie Arroyo, for example, one of her side gigs. Now this is no, you can do this with anything, whether you're selling information or anything, but she like buys and sells jewelry on the side because she grew up, her mom has a storefront in Manhattan, and this is what she does. Like she has a consignment shop and taught her a lot about this kind of stuff. And she does this on the side and does pretty well with it. And I've been giving her some advice on this. I'm like, look, you can do these onesie twosie things on like the websites where you buy and sell jewelry. I mean, by all means, have a party with it. But that's not where the real money's at. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, well, once you get that customer, now when you mail them something, when you mail them their product, why not stick an offer in there for another product that goes with that product? And it was like a light bulb went on. She's like, yeah. And then she started doing that. And now she's making a lot more money doing that because she's jumping up and down in a puddle. She took the prospect from the ocean. She took the fish from the ocean, Jonathan, and put it in a puddle that she controls. That's the analogy I'm going to use. You're taking fish from the ocean. The only reason this analogy breaks down is because saltwater fish die in freshwater puddles. So I don't know if that really goes, but who cares? You get the point. Okay. But that's my whole point. It's like you want to jump up and down in puddles. And this is not a tactic. This is not some secret ninja trick and all that crap, as you know. You could do the same with a podcast. Now, podcast is a whole other thing. You're kind of in an ocean, I would think. And John, you would know better than I would, since you are the king of podcasting. I saw you give yourself that title recently.
Recently, I
that.
like it. And I got the audio bite now with Ben saying it. Hell yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm going to say it right now. Jonathan Rivera is the king of podcasting. And, that's going to piss off some other people out that I know. Sorry, Nathan Frazier. Maybe you could be the prince of podcasting. I don't know. But I mean, you guys are all like the ones I know. The few of you that I know who do this are very good at this stuff, and I'm referring people to you guys all the time, and there's a reason for that, But anyway, back to me. Okay, back to me, Jonathan. This is this is not the king of podcasting show. Okay, this is the bensettle.com show, and I am
the king of email marketing. That's the title I gave you.
You could call me that if you want. I actually have created a new title for myself that more reflects what I do. And if people go to my website at bensettle.com, you'll see this starting to become used more. I was calling myself the world leader in email copywriting education. And I believe I have the track record, I don't know how many thousand pages of content, hours of video and audio, and the testimonials and the success track record and all the people I've actually helped to do this, including you.
Yeah.
And I thought about that, and what I'm doing, and this has nothing to do with jumping up and down in puddles, but we're going to talk about this anyway. Jonathan. I decided to change it to something else because what I do goes beyond just teaching email. Like, you can learn the how-tos of email. It's not, I teach that, don't get me wrong, but it's far more than that. I mean, at the end of the day, I teach people how to create a lifestyle using email. And so I changed it, to master the one email workday, because that is really what I do and teach. And that's my new title. I still I'm attached a little to the old title and all that, but my point is this. I mean, a title is powerful if you do it, and if it's based in honesty and it's not just something you just dream up. Like, king of podcasting. You didn't just start podcasting last week, and you have the clients. I mean, you have the best client out there, me.
Duh.
I get all the, actually, I have no idea. I have no idea what my traffic, my downloads are like compared to everyone else's, but it doesn't matter. I'm still better than all your other podcasters. Let's just be honest.
Take that.
Okay, if you and I are going to be very honest, I'm better than Igor. I'm better than Dan Meredith. I'm better than Doberman Dan. Now they're really going to hate me. But anyway, back to Puddles. And I'll tell you why. It's because I understand the puddles versus the ocean. That's how I'm going to sneak out of the hole I just dug myself into. But that's the whole point. So you could do this with email list. You can do it with a direct mail list. Some people don't want to do email. They don't want to do direct mail. I do direct mail as a back end. For example, Jonathan, this year I've started sending more offers to my email player subscribers. I used to just send a catalog out with everything in it.
Yeah.
And then I decided, what am I doing here? Like, I get a few sales of back issues or whatever. But since I've been like putting this one offer in there to something that's more targeted, and that's the only thing they can buy. I mean, I really hate using this term, 10x. But I actually did the math, and I'm doing 10 times more in sales on an average month than I was before.
Wow.
We'll just say 9x, because it's not always necessarily 10, 9x or 11x. All right, either way.
Let's go with 11.
But this is a principle, though. This is a principle of marketing. Sell one thing at a time. There's nothing magical about this. What's funny, John, is I teach this stuff, right? I'm always teaching this really basic stuff. And every now and then I'll get some guy who is an email player subscriber who says, why am I subscribed to email players when, you give so much away in your podcast? I'm thinking, I'm like, have you been reading these newsletters? I don't ever talk about anything. I might touch on a couple things here and there, but I never really give the deep stuff away on a free podcast. But it's funny because these are people looking for bright, shiny objects. They're looking for get rich quick. And Ben, that's what they're looking for.
Tell them the truth. You're sharing everything you share on here is like 10 months old and out of date.
It's more like 100 years old, not of date. It's like, but that's the game. That's how you weed out people. That's actually a good way to do it with the podcast. You can kind of weed, I always have fun mocking people. You just keep getting your education on free podcasts, and you see where you are in 2 years from now or 5 years from now, compared to people who actually invest their money in things and look deeply at something instead of wide. And this is why most people are just they're writhing around. They don't know what they're doing. They have no clue what they're doing. They just keep going to the next place, next free thing. But okay, so back to the Dan Kennedy thing, the puddles versus oceans, because this was actually a very valuable free thing. That's something that easily you could pay money for. And again, you could find it somewhere. Just put in Dan Kennedy, Peter Lowe talk. It'll or even better, put in Dan Kennedy, Al the plumber talk, because he tells a story about Al the plumber, and I'm pretty sure if you can, the keywords will match up and all that. Another thing you can do, and I was doing a little bit, I haven't done much with this, and I fully intend to, is Snapchat, because now everybody's getting off Snapchat. To me, it's like, well, why not isolate people onto Snapchat? Because I have less people like competing. I haven't done much with it because I'm not a big video guy, Jonathan, but if I was, I would use that a lot more. YouTube is another one. But again, YouTube, you're jumping up and down in an ocean, So I don't know. I know there are people that want to use YouTube and all that, and you should. But to me, it's more like use YouTube, the ocean of take the fish in YouTube and bring it to your puddle, the email list. And then from your email list, you sell them something, you get them on a direct mail list, and now you have another puddle. You have a puddle within a puddle. I don't know if that makes sense. But you have like an air pocket in the puddle. I don't know, man. These analogies aren't flowing any better than the puddle for me. So I'm gonna end it with this. But get people in puddles, not oceans, and you will make more sales. I'm not saying you can't make money in the oceans. I'm not saying you can't catch fish in the oceans. But if you isolate them into puddles, it's a lot easier. It's kind of like when I was a kid, Jonathan. We went to this thing called the trout pond, where there's this little pond and they stacked it with trout. Like, you'd have to be an idiot to not be able to catch a fish in there. They even tell you what bait to use and everything. And that's what I want everyone to do. I want you to find your own trout pond and fish it. All right. So next time, Jonathan, I'm going to do something a little more fun, a little more exciting. I'm going to talk about why I'm a big believer and advocate for shaming.
Oh,
big
boy.
on shaming, which, we live in this day and age where, you can't. Yeah. Well, shaming's worked for thousands of years. It's just now suddenly we're all this little snowflakes running around who want their bad decisions to be verified and validated where it's a problem. But we'll talk about why shaming is good, how it saves lives, and how it will save people's sales and make them more sales if they do it properly. And that is next week.
Man, I can't wait. So that is a wrap for another bensettle.com podcast. We'll be back in your earbuds next time. Thanks for tuning in.
You've been listening to the bensettle.com podcast. To download yourself a free issue of Ben's prestigious $97 per month email players newsletter, which is going to show you 24 ways to write emails people eagerly read, click, and buy from, head on over to www.bensettle.com. Well, off you go. You know it makes sense.
This is the podcastfactory.com.